Well, let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. Bubba the Love Sponge is locked out of the building. Howard Stern is thousands of miles away, hiding out in New York City. I got the deal. Hulk Hogan Uncensored on Howard 101. You know, brother, you've never talked to Hulk Hogan. You know nothing about me until you find out what's going right now. Right now, you've never heard me like this. I'm free. I'm not married. I don't work for no stinking corporation. This is just me. If you got a question, brothers, don't be scared to call, because this isn't Pinocchio's nose. This isn't Pinocchio's penis. This isn't Liberace, Mr. T, or ooh yeah, the Macho Man. This is Hulk Hogan Uncensored on Howard 101. So what you gonna do? I can't believe we're making history, maniacs. I'm in the studio. I got all Bubba's equipment. I've been blessed by Howard Stern, and I'm ready to roll it out. I'm ready to let it hang out, and I just can't wait to find out how intense it's going to get. You know what? We're going to the phone lines right away. Jason, what's up, brother?
Hey, Hogan, I'm going to mark out a little bit to you. You've been a hero of mine forever. I've always loved watching you on TV. But I'd like to know, when you body slammed Andre the Giant, what was that like? I mean, was that the greatest thing in life or what?
Well, you know, brother, at the time when I got the Andre up in the air, a lot of people thought he was a 7'4", 500-pound giant, but that night, he was closer to 700 pounds, brother. He was having some back problems. You know, he was just really heavy. It was a wrestling moment, brother, that nobody will ever forget. But after that, man, Hulk Hogan's career took off. People like you rode the wave with me, and I don't think there'll ever be another moment like that where someone that big goes up and goes crashing down, dude. Were you there at WrestleMania?
No, I wasn't there. I was only about 14 years old watching it on a pay-per-view cable TV that night.
Well, my brother, thank you for keeping the dream alive. Thanks for calling, brother. Yo, Salvatore, what's up, my brother?
Hulkster, thanks for taking my call. First, a lot of guys are going to be putting you over tonight, but I still think I got to tell you one thing. I come from a generation from the 80s who watched you, and a lot of us tried to become workers, and some of us, like myself, because of you and being an influence early in our lives, we worked those indie shows, those renegade shows, and even though we didn't make it, because of you, you introduced us into this beautiful sport that is professional wrestling. So I want to thank you and put you over for being an inspiration for us to work those shows, even though we didn't make it to the level that you did. So thank you.
Well, you know, brother, if you've worked those indie shows, if you've dug, if you've taken the bumps, if you've gone down the road, you know how tough this business is. You know, and you scratched the surface because you were physically beating yourself to death trying to learn the business. If you would have totally broke through, brother, the political side, the game playing, how heavy it gets in the back and what you got to do to stay on top, brother, you have no idea, but I sure appreciate your respect and stepping up to the plate, bro.
No problem, Hulkster. And by the way, that political scene is even on small indie renegade shows as well. But my question is this. There's a lot of urban legends in the professional wrestling business. However, this one is a little merit because a lot of guys won't touch it. Would you comment, since you have nothing to lose right now, on the infamous rumor about Randy Savage and Stephanie McMahon? Again, thanks for taking my call.
Whoa, hold on, dude. What's the rumor?
Well, there is a pretty rumor out there that the reason why Savage is kind of getting the blacklist from Vince Sr., and I'm not in the business, so I can't call Vince Sr., I know that, that he allegedly might have had sex with Stephanie.
What's that got to do with anything? I mean, you know, Stephanie's a grown woman. You know what, brother? You know, Macho, his name has never been uttered again out of Vince McMahon's mouth. And I've been back several times to SummerSlam, you know, with Shawn Michaels, Randy Orton. I've gone back to Monday Night Raw's big anniversary, 20th or 30th anniversary. And you're right, brother. The Macho Man's name has never been mentioned. But you know what? I just, if that's true, maybe that's why he never went back there.
Very well.
I'm going to do a little digging now, brother. You know what?
I should be a little smarter.
Well, you know what? I don't know if he's smarter or if he was just going for broke, man. But you gotta give him props for going out on a limb, bro.
Right. All right, Hulk. Thank you very much.
Virginia, what's up, girl?
Hey, Hulk Hogan.
What up?
Hey now.
Oh, it's
I wanted to ask you a
Michael.
question about the Ultimate Warrior, like when he was big with you guys in the WAF. I always heard like a lot of wrestlers didn't like him. He was kind of a dick. kind of a doofus. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
No, it's not we didn't like him, brother. It's just that he got in the business and he just didn't know what was going on in the ring. I mean, if you were to come off the ropes and run me over with a tackle, you take off, to your right. And he would hit you with a tackle and run straight across the ring and sideways and all over the place. And he just didn't really ever dig in, or maybe he wasn't smart enough to dig in. But, I had one good match. I had one good match with him. And he blew up real quick. I mean, I remember being in the Sky Dome and about 8 minutes into the match, he goes, let's go home, which means let's end the match. And I said, no, brother. I grabbed him in a rear chin lock. He was sucking wind. I said, no, we're not going anywhere. We got 75,000 people in here, brother, and we're going to tear this place down. We're going to go home after you press me over your head and I kick out. And then when I drop the leg on you, you're going to kick out, and we're going to go all the way through the finish until you beat me. But you know what? The problem was he was lost in there, brother. He had a great gimmick. Vince fell madly in love with him. I'll leave it at that. But you know what, brother? He just couldn't cut it in the ring.
But did you watch the DVD they just released on him?
Bro, I was in a deposition. It's the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a deposition. I was sitting 3 feet across the table from him, and they started talking about him and how the DVD ruined him and all the craziness that happened, And my opinion was, that he just couldn't lace his own boots up.
All right, thanks, Hogan.
All right, my brother. Yo, what up?
Hello. I have 2 quick questions.
What's up, dude?
All right, I want to know if you could comment on the Chris Kanyon death.
Yeah, I talked to Chris on the phone. I really don't know anything about the death. I just heard that he passed away. God bless his soul. But I know he was kind of really always depressed, bro, because when I hooked up with Diamond Dallas Page and that whole craziness that was going on in WCW, I tried to help Chris out a lot. He was getting some crazy push, which I didn't really understand the push at the time. I know there's a little click back in the day, and Chris was calling me up all the time, and every time he talked to me, bro, he was always depressed, and he was real confused about his whole sexual deal there, and he was torn up, and he didn't want to come out of the closet, he didn't want to tell everybody what was going on, and when he called me up, I just give him advice, man, say, follow your heart, brother, and he was a good guy, but I don't know what really happened there, brother, I really don't.
Can I ask you about a rumor that was going around on the internet that you had gay sex with Mr. T?
That I had gay sex with Mr. T? Brother, it was really, really good.
So it is true?
Yeah, man, it's true.
All right, thanks.
Yes, got it, brother.
All right, bye.
Yo, Captain James.
Hey, what's happening, Hulk?
What's up, my brother?
Hey, the other day Bubba was talking about something. He said something about you going to a movie premiere late back in the day, and the movie director or whatever screamed and yelled at you, and you got kind of blacklisted after that. I'd like you to go into that.
Oh,
and
man,
also,
no, we don't need to go there. Come on, brother.
Also, Eric the Midget sucks dick.
I don't know anything about the midget, but that whole movie thing, bro, Bubba and I get into a big dissertation because a lot of the craziness in my marriage was, while you're wrestling, you could have been this big movie star, you could have done this, you could have done that. And the truth is, brother, if this is what we're talking about, craziness in my marriage was, while you're wrestling, you could have been this big movie star, you could have done this, you could have done that. And the truth is, brother, if this is what we're talking about, and I think it is, there was a huge player out in Hollywood, like they've got all these heads of the studios, with Paramount and Universal and MGM and United Artists. And sometimes, like if John Wayne or The Rock or all these guys, get the push, sometimes, it's all business. And then sometimes back in the day when I started, they wanted to kind of like take you under their wing. Well, I really didn't know what that meant, take you under their wing. So I had made several of these little low budget movies with New Line Cinema, Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny, No Holds Barred, made them for $2-3 million, brother. And then they made like 20-30 million bucks overseas, DVD at the box office. So back in the day, that was a lot of money. So they were trying to get me to the next level. And there was a producer in Hollywood that always had these screening rooms, they didn't have screening rooms, but he had a screening room at his house. And he'd show these movies at his house, and all the big actors would come there. Jack Nicholson, all the big actors. And all of a sudden, this big movie producer, he kind of like fell in love with me. I mean, really fell in love with me. And I was deaf, dumb, and blind, and I was going there trying to get the Hollywood break. And the next thing, he was one of the major top guys in L.A. that ran all the movie business. And all of a sudden, I showed up late one time to a screening. He pulled me in the back room, and he goes, "Hey, what's wrong with you? How come you disrespect me? You're my boy now. Are you going to do what I say?" But it was heavier than that, bro. I mean, he was wanting me to get down and dirty with him, and that's not the deal with me, bro. You know, I'm married with kids, and I don't play that way. So basically, when I put the brakes on it, I said, "Brother, you know, that's not my deal. Not into the strictly dickly stuff, bro. That's not my deal. Don't go down that road. Thank you very much, brother, but I'm going back to professional wrestling." That was pretty much it for me, dude. And I was healthy. I was young, 27, 28, Stallone, Arnold, everybody was rocking with the action stuff. I wasn't hurt. I could actually pull myself up a rope with just my arms without using my legs. I could have had that opportunity, but that wasn't my deal. I think that's what you're talking about. Is he gone? Anyway, I'm going to get to the emails, man. Let's switch it up just a little bit. All right. Let's see what we got. What do we got here? From Dave. Have you spoken to Randy since his father died? What's his deal these days? Talking about the match. Then, when did you and Randy, when and where did you and Randy meet, and how has your relationship changed through the years? Well, first off, when Randy, the Macho Man Savage, and I met, we were doing Poughkeepsie TV every 3 weeks in New York. And all of a sudden, we had all these guys coming and trying out, and Vince McMahon goes, "Hey, Hogan, what do you think of this guy here?" And I saw Randy come walking in. He's about $180, 180 pounds. He had on a zebra striped headband with blue jeans with patches on it. But he had this beautiful chick with him. And I watched him work in the ring, and she just kind of stood around there at ringside and, didn't do a whole heck of a lot. But I told Vince, I said, "Brother, if you team him and the girl up and she really learns to work the apron and stuff, we can make some serious money." So that's where we first met. I haven't talked to Randy since his father died. And I really want to, brother. I don't know why I didn't call him, but I got his number in my phone from a good friend, Johnny Green. I came about that close, brother, to giving him a call. And I just didn't do it. And I don't know why, and I wish him nothing but the best, nothing but love for him, total respect. But I need to give the Match a call. And probably because you called me, brother, I'm going to do it. Thank you. Yo. Got the next email going. Tim in Vancouver. What is the worst rumor you've ever heard about yourself? Well, Tim in Vancouver, that's where Earthquake came from, my man. God bless him. Tim in Vancouver, I think the worst rumor that I ever heard about myself was my wife accused me of having an affair with Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And it's a crazy story. It was right after Brutus's parasailing accident. And Brutus had to sleep in a chair straight up with his head packed in ice. And Brutus had this really good-looking girlfriend. And I guess while everybody was sleeping, Brutus called her over to come by the house. And all of a sudden, my ex-wife's grandmother came downstairs, and she saw this blonde head going up and down on Brutus's lap. This blonde head was giving Brutus oral sex. And the next morning when I came down for breakfast, Linda's whole family was mad at me. I couldn't figure it out. And the grandmother, Nene, goes, "I saw you giving Brutus oral sex." They thought it was my blonde head, but it was really Brutus the Barber Beefcake's girlfriend. So that, without a doubt, is the worst rumor that I've ever heard about myself. My ex-wife accused me for years and years and years of being gay with Brutus. Then after that, she accused me and Bubba being gay. Anyway, here we go. We're going to Trevor. When you slammed Andre, did you tweak something? You looked like you hobbled a bit afterwards. Maybe I was just seeing things. White Bengal Tiger rules. Truth is, when I slammed Andre the Giant, I got him up to the horizontal position, and then when I went to turn him, my left lat muscle tore out, my shoulder tore in 3 places, and my trap tore away from my neck. So, brother, you were right on, Trevor. When I slammed Andre in WrestleMania III, I tore my whole back and shoulder out. You were right on the money. Okay, we got another email from Jim Jones, the Jobber. Hey, Hootie, just wondering where you see TNA as a company in a year from now. Do you see a second show like Impact coming to TV. Realistically, what are the odds of Tommy Dreamer coming to TNA for an ECW type reunion? Wow, it's a lot of stuff. Anyway, a year from now, I see the numbers really, really, really moving up. A year from now, I see most of the WWE audience checking us out. A lot of them sticking with us. Talking about a second show like Impact. Already there's a show on probably as we speak right now. TNA Reaction. It's a behind the scenes look, like the reality look at what RVD and Jeff Hardy are talking about in the back. A reality look at how sometimes Bubba and I would be in the office talking smack. Well, not anymore. Bubba's not hooked up with me anymore, but it's me in my office talking smack with Eric Bischoff, Jimmy Hart running around putting out fires. It's going to be so intense. I've seen the 5-minute teaser on www.spike.com, that it's airing right now. So we do have a second show already in the works, and I think it's going to be red hot. The third part of the question, Tommy Dreamer coming to TNA for an ECW type reunion. I'd like to see everybody from ECW regroup somewhere. All right, guys, this is Hulk Hogan Uncensored on Howard 101, 1-888-69-BUBBA. If you want to talk to Hulk Hogan, unscripted, uncensored, totally naked, sitting here sipping on a Miller Lite, no wife, got a job, but I don't have to bow down to anybody because I'm running the company. It's Hogan like you've never heard him. Hit me up. All right, guys, Hulk Hogan Uncensored on Howard 101. The number's 1-888-69-BUBBA. You want to talk to Hulk Hogan like you never talked to him before? I'm wide open, guys. And, I was doing emails a moment ago and taking calls. And I don't know what happened, but, they started talking about deaths in wrestling. They started talking about Canyon. And I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I just had the producer in here pull a list of names up. The guys that have passed away in the last few years. Yeah, you know what? It's just overwhelming. It really hit me. I got a couple more emails I got to get to first. From Carl Howie, is there anyone past or present you would really like to work a program with? Well, Carl, Cena's out there. I worked with Orton. I'd love to jump in the ring with Orton again, now that he's really dialed in. But the one guy that would make a history moment in wrestling would be Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold. I first met Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was with Brian Pillman, and Brian Pillman was such a character, so charismatic. They had a team called the Hollywood Blondes. They were shining, man. They were a great team. But behind the scenes, Steve was always, quiet and kind of, to himself, and he didn't talk a lot, to a lot of the guys. He had a few friends he hung with, but Brian Pillman was always in the office, always talking about wrestling and this and that and the other. So, Brian Pillman kind of, approached me more than anybody else. And then we had a few years in the WWE where the NWO was going on and we were reprogrammed and I was going in different directions. But, I saw Steve in the gym about 6 months ago. He's in shape. He looks great. He's ready to go. I don't know physically how his back or his neck is, but that's the one match that I would love to have. Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold. I'd love to get in the ring with him. All right, we've got Ricky here. Why don't we see you playing lead roles in movies? Well, it's to the point now at my age that I think maybe I'd be a good supporting actor like a Gene Hackman or a straight guy for one of the leading guys. I had my day already. I had my little lead role acting career when I was younger, and I did a lot of kids movies. But I think at this point in time, if I was to get back into acting, it would definitely be like in a supporting actor role. All right, we've got Mike Allen. I heard you say, what's going on here? What is going on? This must be Paul Orndorff. I've heard Paul say a lot of disparaging and demeaning things about you. Do you really dislike each other, or is it all a work? This is Paul Orndorff. Paul's been a good friend of mine since high school. He was a couple years ahead of me. He was the branded bull. He looked just like he did in high school, how he does now. Full-grown man. We had a few run-ins. I didn't know he was saying disparaging or demeaning things about me. We had a a couple little disagreements, a couple little blips. You know, when the whole steroid thing was going on, he actually showed the feds a check, you know, that he said was for me, that was for steroids or had to do with steroids, which wasn't true. Never understood that, but that's all water under the bridge. I had no idea what demeaning things he's saying right now. So, you know, there's all kind of other things going on with the wrestlers that say stuff. You know, I've had run-ins when I became a government witness for the whole steroid trial. You know, I got to read everybody's depositions, you know, and, you know, Shawn Michaels and certain people said things about me in depositions that weren't true. So always expect the unexpected. John in Phoenix, in your prime, what was your workout routine? Well, John, in my prime, it was lifting the heavy weights, being real consistent. You know, at the time we had the crutch of the steroids back in the day when it was legal. And the workout routine is pretty much exactly what I do today. You know, chest and back, shoulders and bis and tris, and then legs, take a day off, then repeat the cycle. All right, guys, we're going to the phone lines again. All right, we've got Chris from Idaho.
Yo, brother.
What's
hey,
up, dude?
I just wanted to thank you, man. About close 25 years ago, Charleston, West Virginia, I was just a punk-ass kid, come out of wrestling school. First match was with you, and quite a memorable thing. It stuck with me for a lot of years, all through the business.
Brother, where'd we work at?
It was in Charleston, West Virginia, at the Civic Center.
You got to be
taping.
You got to be kidding me, brother. Well, who went over, you or me?
Well, obviously I didn't go over. I was. You did sell for me. I got to give it to you. You come in there. I didn't get a chance to talk to you before. You come rolling in. I come out the ring. You locked up. Told me what was going to happen. You sold for me, and about 2-3 shots, and that was it. The rest of it, of course, you took over and went home, and quite a memorable experience though when you're a punk ass kid, you know.
Well, that's one of the reasons I still get heat nowadays. You know, up until this last year, whenever I'd wrestle, we've got all these agents now in the back and all these writers, and they want to know every camera shot, where you're going to take the first step, where you're going to throw the punch. If you're going out over the top rope, where's he going to land? And I mean, my whole deal, as you know, if you apparently have been in the ring with me, brother, that, you know, I just sit back in the back and I go out there and lock up and just say, all right, brother, duck the punch, you know, miss something. I'm going to make a little comeback, 3 punches, big foot, and the leg drop, brother. You know, so it's pretty much, you know, when you get in the ring, I know we probably just had a short match if you were just putting me over.
Yeah, it was a squash.
Yeah. But basically at the end of the day, that's what this business is all about, is going out there and just working together. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you helping me get to the top. And I hope I didn't hurt you. Hope I didn't hurt you.
You know what? Honestly, it was a hell of a learning experience for me. It led to 20 years in the ring. I had a chance to pass you in the airport in Tokyo about 15 years ago and never spoke with you. And it was just, I wanted to thank you. Believe it or not, the 3 minutes out there taught me a hell of a lot more than I learned from any training or anything else. And I just wanted to simply thank you for it. I mean, you took good care of me, and, you know, I remember that. When it came my turn to pass on something on, what I learned from you went a long way. And that's no bullshit. That's a straight shot, brother.
All right, my brother. Thank you so much. Lance from Boston. What up, dude?
What's going on, Hootie?
Oh, man, just hanging out in Bubba's studio. I got him locked out in case I'm doing so bad he wants to come in here and shut me down. I don't think he even thought I was going to be on time today, but I snuck in on him, and he gave me a password, and I know enough about the security thing here to change the passcode. So I at least got one full hour before he kicks me to the weeds.
Nice. Thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it. A lot of fans out there.
Brother, I'm just winging it. I'm a little worried now that I'm not, you know, this is a whole nother world for me, man. I feel like I'm in way over my head, brother.
Nah, we'll treat you right out here. You're going to treat us right, between us right for God knows how many years now. So it's all good, man.
So what up, brother?
One question for you, though. How'd you actually end up being with TNA? I know, you know, after the whole Hall of Fame thing with Vince and, you know, thought you'd be sticking around for a while. And
well, brother, I tried.
Want to come back?
I tried. What was that, bro? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, man. Did you want to come back to wrestling? And Vince kind of said no, kind of like what Flair did. Flair wanted to come back, and Vince said no. So
no, it was totally opposite of that. I mean, you know, Vince, you know, I'm grateful, brother. You know, what you got to realize is when you go along in life, you got to be grateful to every single person that gave you the opportunity to make you do what you do. I mean, I don't know what you do, brother, but you're probably driving a car that somebody else made. You're wearing clothes that somebody else, you know, made. And like this opportunity with Bubba and Howard Stern to give me this opportunity, you know, for Howard Stern to open the doors, for Bubba to pave the way. I'm grateful for this whole thing. So I'm so grateful for what Vince, it took Vince McMahon to help make me. I didn't do it on my own. So we've always agreed to disagree, you know, and we were actually talking on the phone right before I went to Australia. You know, it was at the end of the year last year. Vince was saying, maybe you could come make a Monday Night Raw in Madison Square Garden right before you go to Australia. And so at the time, I was talking to Dixie Carter, you know, maybe once every couple days, you know, thinking about going there. I've been looking at TNA for 3 or 4 years, but all of a sudden, the more I watched it, you know, the more I watched TNA and the more Bubba got in the middle of it and started stirring it to a fever pitch, I said, man, you know what? I know the story at the WWE. No disrespect. I know where I'll end up. I'll know, you know, if they make me the Babe Ruth of wrestling and I do the whole merchandising deal, that'll be great. And that's a great way to ride off in the sunset, and there's no disrespect in that. But then when I looked over to TNA, I saw a whole bunch of energy there. I saw a young upstart company, brother, with all kind of talent. And after what I've been through the last 2 years, brother, not only do I need to start my life over, this was like life after life in the wrestling business. I saw a chance for me, you know, to keep staying in this business without being disrespected, to stay in this business and really participate, and basically to have this whole nother life in the wrestling business. And it's a new life. It's just not fading into the sunset. I mean, I'm really involved. I saw a chance to get over there and really get involved. And, you know, Eric Bischoff made me realize, you know, that how big of a monster Vince is. I mean, they got a show on Monday, and then, which is called Raw, then Tuesday's off. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, even on the Spanish stations, they get all these other shows that point to the main mothership, Monday Night Raw. And I was going, man, WWE is such a big monster. TNA's get so much energy. They're such a young company. We got to keep fighting the monster. And Eric just made me calm down a bit, because Randy Orton started in 2001 at the WWE, the same time Eric did. And right now, Randy's in his prime 9 years later. TNA's only been around for about 6.5 years, brother. So if you put that in perspective, this is where the future is. I mean, we've got a show on right now as we're talking called TNA Reaction. I don't know if you've got it on your TV now, brother.
Yeah, I'm actually DVRing it right now, yeah.
Okay, cool, bro. But it's like a real inside edgy look, you know, real grainy look at what really goes on back there. You'll see me cussing and throwing a beer can down. You know, the cameras are everywhere back there. And we're not bumping to the cameras. We're not promoting to the cameras. I'm not going, you know, well, you know, lock down this, lock down that. You know, it's not that at all. So I think, you know, this is where the future is. More wrestling, you know, a young company that's got a bunch of guys that, you know, I don't have to deal with the Hulk Hogans. I don't have to deal with, you know, the Goldbergs, no disrespect intended. I don't have to deal with the Rocks, no disrespect intended. These guys are there to work. They don't care about how big the contracts are. They don't care. Like Jeff Hardy came back with the right attitude. RVD's a player all the way. These guys are laying it all on the line because they know when this company grows, I'm going to treat people, and Dixie Carter is going to treat people different than anybody else. As this company grows, if you guys are on Team Hogan, on Team TNA, we're going to make sure all the boats float, brother. That's why I went there.
No, we appreciate that a lot, man. I know a lot of fans out there kind of thinking like, you know, he kind of turns his back on Vince or whatever, but like they're, you know, the real Team Hogan fans out there don't think that at all. We appreciate you, and we're definitely watching at TNA. Wish you best of luck. Huge mark up here in Boston, man.
No, bro, you know what, dude? And I appreciate you saying that, and thanks for keeping the dream alive, but I didn't turn my back on Vince. What you need to
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, there are a lot of people out there online and everywhere else think you did, and, you know, the real fans of yours and the real fans of wrestling know that didn't happen. I want you to know that we don't think that. The true fans don't think that. We appreciate what you're doing, man.
But, you know, what a lot of people don't realize is that Vince is business, and he wants to keep moving and keep moving. And he doesn't ride a horse till it drops and then pick it up and ride it again. He rides a horse till it drops. He shoots it, then he eats it. and that didn't happen with Hulkamania. And you guys proved that to Vince in WrestleMania 18. Because when I was postured as the worst bad guy in the world and The Rock was getting his break and he was doing the Scorpion King and he was smelling what The Rock was cooking every week and he was the big push, you guys, the fans, showed Vince McMahon and the whole wrestling world that you can't tell you who to cheer for, who to hate, or to take this contrived program. And you guys made a stance and said, you know what, we're Hogan fans. The guy's been through a lot of stuff. He's been out there 30 years trying to keep, you know, kicking, and you guys expressed what was real. And so, you know, I just wanted to let everybody know, just like you know, that this is just business, like Vince said. this is business. That's all it is, brother. And thank you so much for hanging in there.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate for everything you've done, what you're going to be doing. Thanks a lot.
You, brother. We got another email here. Jamie in Chicago. I read your book, and you got into it a little, but if you can tell me how you feel about your life now. Are you disappointed with any actions of Nick or Brooke? Well, let me take the second part of that question. It's the actions of Nick or Brooke. I'm not disappointed at all. Once you get to know my kids, Nick and Brooke, there's not a bad bone in their body. Nick is just so dialed in. He's so positive, Brooke is so dialed in. She's so positive. I don't want to Bible thump you to death, but they walk in the Spirit of Christ. They're real positive people. And, as far as my life goes, I survived. And that's one of the things, Jamie, that I wanted everybody to know, that times are tough. People are losing their jobs. Homes are going up, being foreclosed. Obama came in and a lot of things aren't happening like we thought they would happen. And what I found out, you got to survive the lows and ride the highs, and I had 2 tough years. I lost everything. I financially, lost everything over the last couple of years. My family totally got pulled apart. I actually sat in my house when I totally bottomed out, Jamie, when I went home and all the house was empty. There were no clothes in the closet. The dogs were gone. I actually sat, in my bathroom, drinking a bottle of rum, eating Xanaxes, and I put a gun to my head for 2 days, brother. And I survived that. And I decided I had to make a choice, to live or die, to be happy or sad, to be in a good mood or a bad mood. I snapped out of it. Layla Ali called me. She kept saying, I love you. We miss you. You left American Gladiators. We've never seen anybody so depressed. We're so worried about you. We haven't heard from you. I had Bubba call me. I bullshitted Bubba on the phone. Oh, yeah, everything's cool. Everything's cool. I had Steve Chapman call me, a buddy of mine. I bullshitted him. Oh, yeah, everything's cool. But they knew stuff was going on. And it was a situation that, out of nowhere, somebody that I really didn't know very well, a girl that I worked with, Muhammad Ali's daughter, Layla, called me. She goes, we miss you. We love you. I snapped out of it. I couldn't get out of the house fast enough. And that's what my life is about now. I met Jennifer, in a health food store. And it was a situation from that point on. Everything got better. Everything started, everything's cool. And and you can ask Bub or anybody that knows me, I'm not all about the money. I'm all about moving forward and stuff. So my life now, if I had to put a word on it, it's perfect. Because any legal stuff, any crazy stuff that's going on, that's a life situation. That's not my life anymore. So things are going really good. And thank you for asking. We've got Tom in Orlando. How much did steroids play a role in your career? Who was the biggest roid freak back in the day? Oh, man, here we go again. All right, steroids, brother. I got my pump on. I got the jump on everybody else, dude. The steroids were huge. It was a situation that when you wrestle 300, sometimes 400 times a year, twice on Wednesday, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, you get hurt. You tear muscles. You get beat up. You get bruised. You land on your tailbone. You hyperextend your elbow. You smash your wrist. Things swell up. Steroids were legal. It was a huge part in the career. I mean, even if you didn't work out every day and you missed 2 or 3 days in a row, you still didn't lose your swell. It was part of the industry. It was part of the business. It ran rampant in baseball. It ran rampant in football. It ran rampant in hockey. And at the end of the day, I was branded at the steroid trial as the one, actually Dr. Zaharian, the doctor that got indicted, he said Hulk Hogan was the worst user I've ever seen. I mean, it was totally ridiculous. I just bumped along nice and easy. I've always been around 300 pounds. I didn't have to go to some of the extremes, that some of the guys went to. When superstar Billy Graham was running hard, that's when the time where the guys were just running rampant, because the mindset was steroids were just as safe as sugar, So everybody's been re-educated. Everybody realizes that, right now, what these things will do to you if they're misused. Right now, in competitions like baseball, football, hockey, all these competitive sports, the Olympics, the judges, the people that run the teams, the people that run the NFL, they need to make a decision what they're going to do about it and how strict they're going to be. But, thank God everybody survived it. Thank God everybody, basically has been re-educated. And you guys just got to understand, there's nothing you can't ask me. There's not a single question that you guys can't ask me on Hulk Hogan Uncensored that I won't answer. I mean, I'm wide open, guys. So I'm trying to be straight up. I'm not real good with the radio. This is my first day on the job. I don't even know what I sound like. I just hope you guys hang with me. But please call 1-888-69-BUBBA. And I gotta throw out much respect for Bubba for paving the road. Howard Stern taught me a lesson of a lifetime. He had me jitterbugging, had me scared to death every time I went in there. He kept me on the edge of my seat. He made me realize that it's okay to ask and answer any questions. So that's the form he gave me. Hulk Hogan Uncensored, please call. All right, Jason, St. Augustine, what up, brother?
Hey, Hulkster, how you doing?
Well, good, brother. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Long-time fan since WrestleMania II there.
No doubt, no doubt. What's on your mind, brother?
Got a question. I was on Fox News the other day, and I found a little tidbit or a snippet that they were showing all the wrestling stars that had passed over the years. And I had seen that Miss Elizabeth had passed away, and I didn't even know that.
Yeah, brother, she sure did.
Can you tell us what she was like back then in the days when, you were with Savage? And, was she as sweet as she could be?
Well, she was under a lot of pressure, because Mach was real intense. He loved this woman more than life. You could just see it in his eyes. She was his life, and he was, the wrestling business is real edgy. It's real dangerous. And back in the day, especially, during the 80s with all the crazy stuff and the drugs and the partying, Macho was real intent on protecting her. So she was under a lot of pressure because of that and because of the performance standards that we had her doing. I would move outside. Randy would fly through the ropes and knock her on her back. We did so much crazy stuff back in the day that, I have to rate her right up there. And I'm not going to say she's better than Scary Sherry Martel, but she was right up there at the top of the ladder with great managers. Now, if you're talking about box office, she was right up there, number one. Her and Jimmy Hart were number one box office because Jimmy was always on his game. He was always with the biggest stars, and Elizabeth ran neck and neck with him, brother.
I hear you. Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, what do you think of Eric the Midget there? He's a prick, isn't he?
Yeah, brother, he's a little stiff. He's just every dog has his day, brother. Eric's gonna meet his own doom here pretty soon, brother. Thank you, bro. Guys, everybody keeps asking me about tough situations for me. I said I really couldn't be stumped by any question here on Hulk Hogan Uncensored, but the one thing that every time you guys talk to me about it, it just drops me and it takes me off my game is when you talk about all the wrestlers that have died, and I just had a list, handed to me, and there's over 100 names. There's over 100 names, of wrestlers that have passed away, and as I look at the names, it's just sad. It's just amazing on how many accidents happened, on how many guys couldn't make the transition between the limelight and the money and the partying and I don't know, I guess a lot of times they just hit back, to real life and just couldn't do the readjustment. But, I see things like, Adrian Adonis. And, when Adrian was running with Jesse Ventura, he was the guy that, was the staple of the East-West connection. Adrian Adonis and Jesse Ventura were teamed up for a long time. And, there were years and years and years where we would be on the road partying, we'd end up in the room drinking and smoking pot and doing coke and just all kind of ridiculous behavior back in the early 80s, and Adrian Adonis had a heart of gold. He had a beautiful wife and beautiful children and just to see him get killed in a car wreck. Adrian was straightening his life out. He lost a ton of weight. He was doing single matches in Japan. He was on the road in Canada, wrestling. He died in a car wreck. So, it's just amazing, how short life is and how valuable, your time here is. So, there's tragedy after tragedy. I'm looking at Rick McGraw. He was living with me, in New Haven, Connecticut. Rick McGraw and Stan Hansen were living in my apartment. And about a year after I moved away, he passed away. You got Kerry Von Erich and his whole family. He had 4 or 5 brothers that all committed suicide. Lacey Von Erich, she's as good as gold. She's working with us now. I was good friends with her father, Kerry Von Erich. And I remember coming back on a plane from Japan with Kerry, and we talked for hours. We talked for 11 hours on the flight from Tokyo, Narita Airport to LAX. And we talked about his brothers and talked about how they died and how tragic it was. And he had this beautiful daughter, a little girl that, I'll never commit suicide to Hulk Hogan. I'll never, get myself in that position, and the guy was all full of love and he was all full of youth and, he was nothing but respect to anybody. And then about 3 days later, I found out that he drove to the end of his father's property and took a .44 Magnum and blew his chest open. I mean, it's just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. Bam Bam Bigelow. I was at home and Bam Bam Bigelow was here up in Newport Richey, a few miles north of my home in Clearwater. We talked on the phone the week before, talked about getting together, talked about Sir Oliver Humperdinck, the wrestling manager from Florida who first got me pointed in the right direction, then became Bam Bam's manager. We were just talking about, hooking up because he lives so close and he was trying to get his life started over. They found him face down, we all know the Chris Benoit situation. I'm sitting here looking at the big boss man. I'm looking at Mike Awesome. My brother's son, Michael Balea, Horace Hogan. Mike Awesome was his nephew. Went through a horrible divorce. Had just terrible, terrible situations with his children and his ex-wife. They found him, hanging, in his apartment. It just saddens me. And it goes on and on and on. I could talk about Kurt Hennig, who came down to work an independent show for Jimmy Hart that made Jimmy put him in a hotel room away from all the boys, because he didn't want to be part of the partying, didn't want to be part of the craziness, And behind the scenes, one wrestler came in and brought a ton of cocaine, I don't mean a ton of cocaine, but some cocaine, and another wrestler came in and brought him some somas, and the next thing you know, we got another death on our hands. Hawk was a great friend of mine. We all know what happened to him. Sherry Martel just blew me away. I don't even know the reason for her death, but the rumor was Oxycontins. I don't even know if that's true. The list goes on and on and on. We had a good buddy here that was always in Tampa, and he was from Canada. His name was Test. And, he passed away. It's just horrible. I just pray to God that, it stops. I think the death that was probably the hardest on me was, Andre the Giant, because for many years, he really didn't like me, and he would just beat the crap out of me. He'd pick me up by my tights like it was a diaper and parade me around the ring, and my balls would be hanging out one side of my shorts, and I'd be trying to cover up, and he'd tie my neck in the bottom rope, twist my neck in the bottom rope and second rope, and use his foot to choke me out, and it was nightmare after nightmare with Andre. I just used to get sick to my stomach when I knew I had to wrestle him. Then we switched gears. Spending so much time in Japan, we became friends. And when he passed away, he told me he was going over to France to see his father because his father was sick. And Frenchie Martin, who was a referee in Tampa, I'm sorry, not Frenchie Bernard, who was a referee in Tampa, was handling Andre's estate, and Andre put all of his belongings and his trust and all of his money in Frenchie's hands before he left. And I thought it was kind of weird. A few days later, when Andre's dad passed, Andre passed away. So, kabuki-ish to no extent. It's just one after another. I pray to God that it stops. Wrestling's a great sport. It's a lot of fun, and these guys need to just keep pushing in the right way. Let's go to more emails. Natalie in Maine. Were you ever a cheater with all your good-looking girls who were your fans of the 80s and 90s? Cheaters. Well, I guess you could call me a cheater when you get caught red-handed. My ex-wife, had somebody tell her specific details, tell her who I was hanging with, and, I don't put the blame on anybody else. I'm accountable. I'm responsible for it. But yeah, I guess you could say, and brand me with the word cheater, but I'm gonna do everything in my power. You know what? I just can't imagine, hanging with a girl. And with now Jennifer, things are so good, and she's so positive, she's so happy, she's so loving. It's just not even in my mindset. So, it's not in the DNA right now. I just can't even imagine that happening again. But wow, that's a tough one to look at. Line one, Tony, Philly. What up, brother?
Hello.
What's up, dude?
How you doing, Mr. Hogan?
Everything's cool, man. What's up with you?
Yeah, I got a question. Do you think that Vince McMahon one day in the future might buy TNA like he did WCW?
Oh, man. Well, brother, let me tell you something, Tone Low. Oh, this is Tom. Tom, you know something, brother? One thing I learned in the wrestling business is never say never. You know, I'll never say that I won't go to work for Vince McMahon. I'll never say that Vince won't buy TNA. I'll never say that Dixie Carter won't buy the WWE. I'll never say that Vince won't work for me. I'll never say never to anything, brother. But right now, the way it looks, I can't imagine, you know, TNA not having Dixie Carter at the helm. I mean, you get a vibe off people. Sometimes people don't even have to say anything. And just by being around them, they can, just their body language shouts out who they are. Dixie Carter is the nicest person. I don't mean just, you know, bow down and suck up, but the truth is she's the nicest person. She's got her head on the shoulders. She's probably the greatest boss I've ever had. And I would hate to see that change. I just think that she's going to take this company so far. She's got such a great vision. You know, my prediction is TNA in due time, it could take a while and a long while. I think TNA is going to be the number one wrestling company in the world. I seriously doubt that Dixie Carter is ever going to, she's just too good to people. I don't think she'd ever let that happen. I think she's going to handle this thing as her baby for forever and a day. All right, line 5, Eric, what up? Yo, Eric,
hey.
Texas T, what's up, brother?
Hey, buddy, I wanted to get your take on the whole Lex Luger deal. I know there was a lot of controversy with him, and I know you worked with him a little bit. What was he like on and on stage and behind the scenes?
Well, brother, Lex Luger, you know, when we were a pro, I never, you know, Lex got a little weird just one time. I mean, you know, there was one time where we were trying to do business and, you know, we were asking him to do a job for somebody and he got, you know, all shook up and his ego got in check. But, you know, he kind of got over it pretty quick. So Lex Luger was always a great guy to work with. He was a total pro. I mean, with the Lex Luger I was around, there were never any problems. You know, and then I started hearing the nightmares. I started hearing the rumors about the pills and the drugs and this and that and the other. And then I knew Elizabeth went through a terrible transition because when her and Mach broke up, she came down to Miami. And I was filming Mr. Nanny in Miami, and she was staying in the same hotel, the Jockey Club. So I heard all the rumors, and one of the biggest jokes in the Jockey Club was the room service people didn't know where to take her food to because she was always bouncing around in different people's hotel rooms. So I knew Liz was having a tough time. And then with all the rumors I heard, when I heard that she got with Lex Luger, I was really worried because Lex Luger ran real hard. And, you know, everybody was worried about Liz. She was going down the wrong road. You know, a lot of her friends, you know, Janie Engel, a lady that helped us for a long time at the house, you know, was part of the wrestling business for years. She was telling us how dangerous and how crazy things were with Liz and Lex Luger. And sure enough, Liz passed away. Don't know the reason why, don't know specifics, but, you know, everybody's opinion is it had a lot to do with those two running together.
Right. All right, Hogan, what about, can you comment on JR, Jim Ross?
Jim Ross.
Yeah.
I love Jim Ross, brother. He, without a doubt, is one of the mainstays in professional wrestling. Jim Ross, he's a brand. His voice is gold. He's a total pro. He'll look you right in the eye and tell you the truth. I mean, this guy has never had a glitch, never misstepped. I think he's a total consummate professional, brother. I'd love to work with JR someday again. All right, guys, I want to give you the heads up on the TNA show tonight. There's some crazy stuff going on. You know, Team Hogan versus Team Flair. It's wide open tonight. All kind of crazy stuff. But the one thing I want to make sure all you guys see tonight, I want you to see Jeff Hardy go up in flames. And you need to pay close attention to it because it was a tape show. And there were a couple mistakes. We were doing the old gimmick, you know, where you blow the kerosene and light the guy's face on fire. And you're supposed to move right away when you feel the heat coming. And there was a little glitch in the system. And because it's a tape show, sometimes you can do things over. You might make the audience mad, but, you know, you need to get it right. Beer Money had a beer bottle full of kerosene, sprayed Jeff Hardy once with a lighter. It didn't work. His head's covered with kerosene. They went for it again. Big chug of kerosene, sprayed Jeff Hardy's head again with kerosene. The lighter didn't work. The third time, Beer Money took a big chug of the kerosene, moved the lighter way away from his mouth, and when he lit the lighter and blew the kerosene, as soon as the flame got anywhere near Jeff Hardy's face, his whole head was covered in kerosene, and he went up like a Q-tip, brother. that's one of the, and I texted Jeff Hardy, are you okay, brother? All right. Cause when the EMTs, they spent time with him in the ring, and on the way out, I was 20 feet away with Dwayne the Dog Chapman and his wife and taking pictures of all their kids. When he went by me in the back, all I smelled was burnt hair and burnt skin. And I kept texting Jeff, you're okay, you're going to be all right. And he texted me back, he said, well, Hogan, the left part of my lip is burnt off and all my facial hair is burnt. And, but he said he was cool, man, old school times 10. So make sure tonight on Spike, you're going to see all the craziness go down with Team Hogan and Ric Flair, but make sure you do not miss Jeff Hardy and Beer Money. I've been in the business a long time. I've never seen anything like it.